Hi, folks. Roage here in the woodshed. It's the day after elections here, and we're gonna fight, 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 fight till we get tired of it or we're all dead. So, this shirt here has nothing to do with the political puppet show. It was just the next shirt in the dresser, so I put it on. So, you know, it doesn't have any symbolic meaning. Okay, so I guess here in the United States, we have, uh, everybody has decided to, engage the political puppet show, and they were all free to elect, the people that they thought were gonna do the thing that they wanted them to do. So half of these people are really depressed because their guy didn't win, and the others are manic and deluded into thinking that things are you know gonna change. Well, we've gone through changes here, and I know there's a lot of people out here that used to have a job and now they don't have a job, and they used to have a house but now they don't have a house, and they used to think they have it together, and now they know they don't. So they're all on, everybody's sort of, just having fun, and usually the excitement wears off when you figure out that you're still right there where you're at. So what they do is they generally give you a choice. Okay, they give you a choice between pain and suffering. Right? And you're free to pick either one, pain or suffering. So, and you're complicit. They've recruited you, and because you're now part of that process, then you have no excuse to complain about it. You know, so we're it seems to me the last 30 years or so, I've noticed that there's always one guy that wants to, you know, uh, lower the taxes on what we call the rich people, to solve the budget and their debt problem. And then there's another guy that wants to raise taxes on what we call the middle class. I don't think I've seen anybody like that. I think there's a lot of people who I guess would be considered poor. They just don't know it. So that's a choice we get. We either lower the taxes on the rich or we increase taxes on everybody else. That's the choice we have between people who have these solutions that talk about the issues, right? Can restore hope and faith and belief in the government. One of the catchphrases I heard was "change you can believe in." Yeah, you can believe in it. But nobody seems to actually listen to the words these guys say, and because we're too busy pursuing the American dream. Yeah, yeah. And when we get to the American dream, do we know it? All right. So, you know, really, if you actually wanted a choice, I would suggest going for guys that were like this or like this. See, that would be that would be different. But we get pain and suffering, and the way the government is structured is they don't have to listen to people. I remember one time and I can't remember if she was a senator or a representative, but her name was Diana DeGette, and she was in Colorado. And this is back when I believed the government actually meant something. Um, and apparently, I called her up, and I was notified that Diana, she doesn't take calls or reads emails from her constituents. And I really didn't know what a constituent was. I guess I thought they were public servants, and they're not. Morgan Carroll actually showed me that she taught me that they weren't public servants. And I've noticed that in my encounters with people in government here lately that they're not really interested in doing anything that I want them to do, or that apparently even makes sense. So and this is the situation we're in, and uh, they're really good at creating identities, identity groups, right? So they always set them in opposition to one another, so they fight. You know, that way, we can blame the other one for the problem. For instance, they created these groups called Republicans and Democrats. And then the fun thing is, then what they do is they define the group, and it all sounds good when it starts out. It starts out good, and it's something that folks can really understand, and they can really support it. And then slowly, what they do is they start introducing these other people that come in, and they do things that really had nothing to do with what it was that they started out with. And they slowly change the definition of that group. But because people don't want to be wrong, they keep supporting that group, right? That's called a group identity. Okay, so, and they did this with other groups like liberal and conservative. Um, you know, we think these words mean something, but we don't understand that there are certain people that can change the meaning of words without you knowing it, like war and freedom. We've got a funny notion of what that is. Freedom is being searched when you go at the airport, or freedom is, uh, uh, you know, walking down the street and having cameras on you all the time. And freedom is doing exactly what these confused people in the government want you to do every second of your life. So that's freedom. Okay, so if you had another idea what freedom was, you know what? You've been looking in dictionaries online, or listening to the guys on TV tell you what freedom is. Um, so that that could be a problem if you're relying on labels and stuff like that, because you got to realize that these guys are changing the labels. But but thinking in a group is kind of an interesting notion, and what I've been able to observe from people who identify with a particular group is that when the group starts out, people are supporting the group, and because generally what they do to suck you in, they tell you cool things. Like there was this one, the Tea Party. Yeah, the Tea Party. Yeah, they were talking about values that most people supported, right? So then they suck you in with this, and then what happens is it gets co-opted by other people who have nothing in their skull at all. So I mean, it's just a echoing void in there, and then they take that group of people and they call it a voting block. So it's all these people that think the same way, right? And then they gradually change the underlying agenda, right? The driving vision and force. They might state it, but nobody who represents the group actually abides by any kind of principles at all. So they slowly change the group into something else, right? But because people generally have this problem uh, admitting that they're wrong, that it's a great way to actually manipulate people. And it works a lot. It works really great. Because, see, what they do is, because people don't want to admit they're wrong, they'll support the group no matter what it does, just simply because they've identified themselves with that group and they don't want to be wrong, so they have to support the group. So initially they throw these words out like freedom and liberty and accountability. That's a good one. Everybody likes that one. Yeah. And then either they forgot what those words were, or they decide that, wait a minute, let's steal money from people. Let's hurt people. And then the people in the group are watching these guys do it, and they just freeze and they can't see it. They don't look at it. They don't admit that, oh my gosh, these guys that I supported, they're doing exactly what is kind of uncomfortable. I'm still trying to figure out what a legitimate rape is. I mean, I heard that one. That one was pretty funny. Yeah. There's a difference between an illegitimate rape. Does that mean it's okay? Huh? Because it's illegitimate? In the whole crime thing, I want to know what it means. What is a legitimate rape? And what does that say about women who, actually split hairs there, or even rapists for that matter. I mean, I'm sure that they're probably not thinking, behind their mind they're violating someone, and they're thinking in the back of their mind, hey, is this legitimate? I don't know. uh, I can't help it. The mother-in-law watches TV a lot. To me, I think it's just a big open sewer pipe that just sort of spills into your living room. But that's television, and she seems to think that that's okay. And hey, to me, it just hurts me to listen to these people. I mean, they don't appreciate. They don't appreciate the damage that they do to themselves when they can't seem to tell truth from fiction. So here we have all of this groupthink here in the United States, and everybody aligns themselves with their particular group, and that's how they live their lives. Okay, so let's say for instance you're a 49ers fan, and your team wins. Wow, you got a week where, hey, everything's great, everything works out, because the 49ers, they won, but that next week they get their butts kicked, right? So then there's a week of, and they go through these cycles, and they don't understand that their moods are being controlled by these things that they choose to identify themselves with, right? So then you've got these, football cycles. And basketball's not as bad because the games are real fast. Or hockey, it's like every night. You got this bouncing up and down. Your emotions are going like this. And then you got the football. It's a long wave, right? Then you got the 4-year wave of like the presidential. And so there's plenty of opportunities to feel horrible. Yeah, plenty of opportunities because we identify so closely with these groups, and the people that actually control the direction of the group, they know the right way to make you depressed all the time by disappointing you all the time. And then there's all these talk show hosts, and you see them. They start out They start out as, again, espousing those things that you believe in, and then slowly, you know what? Oh, well, they say something that you don't quite agree with, but you can cut him some slack, because maybe he's got an off day, and then after a while it starts, you know they say these things that just really grate on you continually, and because you supported them, originally, and they changed what they said, then suddenly you find yourself having to ignore everything that they say, but you still support them because at one point they actually, you know you probably, they said something that you liked, and because you jumped right on board and you heard it and wanted to support it and you were right there with them, and then you find out later, well, this guy was a pedophile. You know that, right? When he was saying all this stuff, he was a pedophile, and I'm sorry you supported him. So what they do is they destroy your expectations, um, and they're good at it. So, and what I see here in America is, you're not anybody unless you can actually tell people what your label is, right? You could be gay, which doesn't mean happy, okay, right? And I figured that out because um, you know, gay when I was growing up meant that you were, you're not joyful, but hey, you're not happy, but you got it, things are comfortable for you, so all of a sudden then you use this word, and then other men wanted to have sex with me, so but then we like lost this word, and I don't know. I mean, maybe we could have come up with a different word for it. I mean, I don't think we would, you know, I don't think it's really a good idea to take a word and change what it means, because then you lose the use of the word. Like for some reason, peace and war. Uh, that apparently means something else. Security means something else too. I I mean, we've got all these words where they change these definitions, and now we don't even know what it is. Like conservative or liberal or um, democratic or communist, and we don't know what that is. I always thought it was a really funny thing that in 1913 the United States, for the most part, put all of the 10 planks of Karl Marx, well, it was attributed to Karl Marx, 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto in place here in the corporate government. And then there was all these guys that were looking for communists. But all 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto were put in place. But, come to find out that those 10 planks really didn't come from Karl Marx. It came from somebody else. And, who knows? I imagine, you tell people, hey, well, we've been a communist country since 1913, and they say, oh, you're just anti-American. So, well, really? I mean, have you ever read the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto? They say, well, we're going to implement a progressive income tax. We're going to have a centralized bank. We're going to control media, education, transportation. All of those elements are in place right now. And okay, if that's what that means, then you know maybe you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe that's it. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. No, I know what the problem is. No, I figured it out. I figured it. You're stupid, right? Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, don't try that on your friends, guys. It's one of those magic words that cause you to get hit in the mouth. Yeah. So, yeah, and we don't want that. We don't want that. It's fun to watch, though, isn't it? If you could just stand back and watch these guys, or like start just talk shit about their mother. Yeah, that always works. Yeah, yeah. But I wouldn't recommend it because it creates tension. This opposition thing. So but if the objective is that we all fight, because it really works because if you want to take over a bunch of people, right? Start identifying groups, right? Suck them into groups, and then they do all the work for you, okay? And when they do that, uh, you know, they start following these leaders blindly, and shoot, they'll walk right off of a cliff, and you can see that happening. And this whole idea of wow, one of the things I decided is I started looking at why am I supporting anybody? Why I might take an idea and say, hey, okay, I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good idea. And I'll say, well, you know what, that guy said something that I agree with, but whenever you say, well, he's conservative, so you must be conservative. No, I agree with a particular idea, but not with and I might agree with a particular man who says something at one time. But I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, well, I agree with that man because hey, he's different than from me. There's no way I can. I mean, this idea that everybody thinks the same and everybody understands the same ideas, that's nonsense. So the whole idea of removing yourself from all of these groups um, actually will increase your happiness because one, let's say your sports team no longer then controls your emotional state for a week, and you don't see the problem is the divisiveness comes in where you have to support something that somebody else is doing. Whereas before you thought that they were going to do one thing and they do something else, and somebody else says, oh, well, you call yourself a conservative. Did you know that these guys were doing this? Or you call yourself a liberal. Do you know that these guys are doing this and you support that? And you're saying, oh my gosh, I can't let this guy know I'm wrong. Oh man, I'm a failure. Oh my gosh. So I'm a man of principle. So yes, I think that you know, punishing the elderly, I think that works for me. Yeah, because those elderly, they're old, and yeah, I don't know how useful they are anymore. So you get sucked into this. No, I don't actually think that old people are useless. Actually, it would be nice if people actually listen to them because they got a different perspective. I mean, so and you got to take care of them, because they a lot of them need help. But here in this country, and once you get a certain age, then you're determined to be useless because you can't work, and you don't have anything to contribute because you actually have wisdom and experience, and they don't want people to have that. So once you start gaining a certain level of wisdom and experience, then it's time for you to go into a nursing home here. Because we're going to keep you away from, oh, heaven forbid that you actually talk to children. Oh man, they might be happy for the rest of their lives. They might figure out that the adults are out of their mind, and might be able to protect themselves from that. So I can't have that. Yeah. So I look at what's going on. It's a basic principle. It's called divide and conquer. And apparently we've been so conditioned to just simply fight that we automatically do this. Here's a new group, and they, they're, they come up with some sort of label, and that label, it sounds like something like the Freedom Party, and we believe in freedom and liberty, and all of that, so you can be free, but of course their behavior when you watch them, they're, of course, aggressive and causing conflict on purpose, and their behavior is probably not something that you'd want to engage in. So that's the trap that we get sucked into. So until people actually decide that they've had enough of just simply fighting with people for the sake of fighting over things that really don't matter, because time and again what they do is they take these groups and they're all the same. I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't look at the federal government. I look at it as a fiction. It's a corporate fiction, and all is fair in fiction. Okay, so I'm watching this, and you got one guy, and there's a profound difference between these two guys. One guy supported an attack on Iran, and the other guy thought that an attack on Iran was something that he supported. And apparently there was a big difference there, enough to actually, cause one to, vote in a particular direction. And that was true. One of the guys supported the banks, and one guy had a lot of support for the bank. So, and that apparently was different too. So I don't really see anything, demonstrably different about that whole program there. And I think it's kind of dangerous, when there are people that don't understand what democracy is. Democracy is technically mob rule. Okay, so you got to think about that. And nowadays, to get elected, what you do is they have these things called polls, and they ask people what they think, right? And then what it is if you're going to be part of the corporate structure and be an officer in that corporation, then what you do is you tell people what they tell you they think, right? So you watch these polls and you find out what they think. And then if you go and have a speech and you say those things, then you can count on them voting for you. Okay? But that's democracy, in that democracy is sort of like mob rule. Okay? And you got to think that if you had a group of people and everybody agrees that majority rules, then that should terrify you. Okay? Because eventually what happens is those that are in the majority start voting everything their way. Okay? So just think about this. In a democracy, if all the right-handed people get together and decide that it's a good idea to kill all the left-handed people, hey, majority rules, right? That's democracy. Hey, And if those left-handed people don't just, they should just march themselves in the sea, because the majority has decided that, they need to be gone. And it's right, because we've decided that it's right, and because it's majority rule. See, that's the whole idea of legal positivism itself, where all law, quote unquote, is something that man comes up with. Right? So you've got these men who've decided, it's a good idea to enslave everyone. Right? And because man comes up with the law, and because I wear this suit, and I make the law, then that's just the way it is. So it's legal positivism is actually a very dangerous concept, because men can justify anything intellectually. And if you look at principles here. Here's one that's really scary. It's called the doctrine of preemption. Okay, and here's the idea. Uh, I'm going to kill you because I'm afraid that you might kill me. That's the doctrine of preemption. Ultimately, you perceive a threat. Well, what's a threat? I mean, anything's a threat. I mean, if enough feathers fall on you, you'll smother. You know, I mean, and you know, we're going after people because they think a certain thing or they say a certain thing. They're not doing anything. They're not hurting anybody. But because they think that way, we need to do something about them. Oh no, that's true. They haven't hurt anybody, but they could. They could. Yeah, they could be dangerous. You know, they could be in a back room somewhere. Fabricating something. You know, I'll tell you. One day they might use this on someone else. So we better take these away. No, no more hammers, no more hammers, and you know what? No screwdrivers either. Right? None. No screwdrivers because you could poke somebody's eye out with it. Right? And no forks and knives either. Okay, that's out. Right? And we're going to have to clean up all the sticks and cut all the trees down. Okay, we can't have that. And we have to pick up all the rocks. No rocks. We're going to have to put concrete over everything. Asphalt, concrete, over everything. We cut down all the trees. Take care of, take anything that can be used to injure somebody because, that's a threat. Yeah, and we got to watch everything. We got to know everything that they're doing. This is the kind of, what is it? It's fear. It's fear. And it's funny what fear does to people. And what's even funnier is people that don't realize that they're being manipulated by their own fear. And I look at surveillance, right? In this country and in other countries, and I see these people who are afraid of other people, so they got to watch them, right? But now with technology, it's so much information, right? So all of this data comes in, right? And it's quote unquote information. Well, okay, and they've got all of these systems, and they're storing all of this camera imagery, everything you're doing on social networking, all the emails are going through. They're saving all of this huge. I mean, we're producing so much data, but it ain't useful. They have it, but there's so much of it. There isn't enough people on this earth to actually look at it and determine if there's something there that worse that needs to be investigated. Oh, they have the systems, they can capture the data, and then you've got people who are going out and they're saying, oh well, if they say these certain key words, that then we'll have to look into it. And the word list now is pretty impressive. And how they assess people as threats. I mean, it has gotten to the point where it's absurd. Like for instance, because I want to obey the law strictly as I know it to be, I'm a threat. And because I'm not afraid of anything, then I'm a threat. And because I don't hurt people and I'm quiet and peaceful, I'm a threat. All right. Well, my question is, and you know, they call them terrorists. Okay, my question is, looking at the definitions that they use, who's not? Who's not a terrorist? Who's not a threat? I mean, you know, and they don't call them terrorists. They call them potential terrorists or potential threats. Who's not a potential threat? Who's not a potential terrorist? And by whose definition? You know, we got things going on in this country. Some guy arbitrarily says, "Oh, well, we're going to label you a threat." Of course, yeah, we got to put you in the dungeon. We got to torture you first and find out what you know. You know, and there's some guy, you know, he's at the ice cream shop. He's buying an ice cream, you know, and he pays with a silver dollar, you know, and oh no, he's dangerous, right? You know, so I'm dealing with these people at the at Treasury and FBI and you know all these guys, the Attorney General's office and police departments, and I'm dealing with all these people, and they don't really listen to anything that I say, but they just say, hey, you know, he's a threat, he's a threat, and why? Because they think I'm a threat. They believe that I'm a threat. I haven't done anything. Yeah, shoot, you know, I must be a threat. You know, I gave them all my guns and ammo. You know, what do I need with a gun? You know, I got on. I don't need any of that. But they don't understand that, and that's why they're afraid, right? So, you know, hey, and these guys work for you know other people in the corporation, and um, they have no idea. In fact, it must be a horrible existence to actually look at everything as a threat. Okay, uh, a guy named Albert Einstein once said, when he was asked what's the most important question facing mankind, and Albert said, the most important question facing man is the universe a friendly place? Now, all I see are people that apparently have determined that the universe is not a friendly place. And I don't think that way anymore because I know differently. So, how do you convince somebody who lives in terror that, oh no, you know, an asteroid could hit the Earth? Wow, yeah, and you know, I might grow another arm on my back. Yeah, could happen. Yeah, and you know, who knows? Maybe I'll turn blue, and you know, maybe I'll have like green eyes. Hmm? Could happen. You know, stranger things have happened, right? So we want to sit there and we just let our imagination run, right? And we're so afraid that we don't even actually look at what's right in front of us, right? So we're totally preoccupied with our fear. In fact, our fear is quite an obstacle because we're so afraid to actually face it, right? We can't face our fear even long enough to realize that what we're afraid of is irrational. You know, we think that, oh, okay, behaviorally we're going to solve the problem. You know, as long as I don't step on a crack on the sidewalk, then I won't break my mother's back. So I'm not going to step on a crack. And then, you know, all of a sudden, then you stop paying attention and, oh my gosh, you stepped on a crack. Oh man, and then you spend weeks and weeks worrying, when your mother's back is going to be broken, or spiders or other things. groups of men with guns, coming to get you like they do on cops on TV. You know, it's not real unless it's on TV. Yeah. I sort of changed my view of that. I tend to think that if it's on TV, then it's probably not real. Not only that, but these people that actually are telling us how it is, most of the time, if they're popular, right? They have a following. Uh, they're probably not giving you the straight stuff. Me, nobody listens to me. I mean, I got people sitting right in front of me, and I actually tell them things right to their face. Not only that, but I've shown people stuff, and they can't accept it. I can't tell you how many times I've gone up to a restaurant counter, stood right in front of someone. I can see their eyes looking in my direction. I'm standing 2 feet away from them. And until I start talking, they don't even know I'm there. Then they say, "Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there." And then I look at them and I says, "Well, yes, it's because I was invisible." And at first they go, "Ha ha ha," and then they think about it. Get this weird look on their face and thinking, "Wait a minute, I didn't see this guy standing right in front of me." That just messes with their head. But hey, folks, look, um, that's just the way it is. I mean, we can enjoy all the protection that we're willing to accept. And I don't mean from other men. I mean from anything. There's great comfort in knowing that, these flesh suits don't have any control here. Right? You know, and I always got people, they says, well, okay, so you're standing there and there's a police officer pointing a gun in your face. Right? And what are you going to do then? I says, well, I don't have to worry about it. The power to pull the trigger doesn't come from his flesh suit. Even even more, there isn't a need for me to get into that situation. Um, I don't I don't ever I don't ever get into a situation like that because I don't need to. If I can stand in front of you and you can't see me, or if I can I can speak to you directly and you can't understand me, or you can't believe me, even though I'm not using anything cryptic. My words aren't that hard to understand. And what makes it hard to understand is not the grammar, it's not the construct, it's the fact that there's a meaning behind it, and that meaning is something that people are typically afraid of, so they can't allow it in. They can't hear it. They can't understand it. Well, they'll agree with you while they're sitting there, but then when they walk away, it just gets purged out of their mind because they're too afraid. It's your fear that's creating unhappiness. So half of the people here in this country are feeling great right now. You know, they believe the good guy won. Okay, and that's what it is. They believe it, whether he is the good guy or not. And I don't mean to disparage him. I have seen I've seen both of these political candidates. I know that they're more than capable of giving the American people what they deserve, and what the American people deserve is pain and suffering. And it's part of the process. It's called waking up. And when the pain and suffering gets too much, and when people have no more hope that their government can't save them, well, that can be a dangerous time, because some people actually they start rebelling. They think that, oh, somebody has to do something about it. Okay, so then they get into other groups, and then they think, oh well, hey, I'm going to have to get this gun, and then they go out and they create more suffering, and they think that that's the solution, right? That somehow vengeance is going to improve things, because they're going to fight, 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 fight. It's fighting that gets us into this. You think fighting is going to get us out of this? How about we try something else? How about forgiveness? How about admitting that, okay, all right, I see what the government's doing. Yeah, okay, that's pretty clever. Because it really wasn't the government doing it, it was me. I say, yeah, I fooled myself, and it was my responsibility. Yeah. So, uh, this awakening process is not without an amount of danger. Because the first thing that happens is one gets really angry. And unfortunately, people don't understand enough about their egoic makeup to understand that, wait a minute, it wasn't an external enemy that did anything to you. Okay? It was ego projecting an enemy that didn't exist. And you could discern that. So these people that go and say, oh, well, the government is irresponsible. Yes, exactly. Yeah, they are. They are, on purpose. Okay? And they're trying to wake you up. And they're applying pain and suffering to do that. However, after a careful study of the law, I looked at how juries were ruling, and I determined that the reason we're being treated the way we are is because 12 people in a particular jury decided that that was the way we're going to be treated, and it was okay for them. All right, I know back in the 90s and 80s and 90s, I was watching a few court cases. One of them was that a jury decided that really 12 police officers beating a guy off the side of the street uh, was a good idea. Right? And then I saw another jury who thought that taking a cinder block and bashing somebody's head in uh, was okay. And in both cases there wasn't even a significant penalty. So that those juries actually decided that that's the way we were going to be treated. So the government basically said, okay, all right, you will do exactly what you want us to do. And we're now surprised, when we look at the news and what's going on, and it is nothing but an endless parade of absurdity, of people behaving in almost abominable extremes over and over, and I don't know. I mean, people actually are surprised that this is going on, right? And then they get angry. They're going to do something about it. They're going to send a video to 10 of their friends. And those 10 of friends will send a video to 10 of their friends. And they'll all online get together and agree, okay, yeah. But they don't actually do anything about it. They feel better about it, though. They feel better about it. And it seems like they did something about it. But, hey, we don't do anything about stuff anymore because we're too afraid. you know in fact, some of us are too afraid to think in a certain way. So I don't know. To me, I don't. I see the political puppet show, and I see it as very useful. I see that the amount of pain and suffering that it's capable of delivering is probably exactly what's required to cause people to rethink their personal life experience. Uh, but, folks, I give you some very easy solutions to improve your life situation that requires really no action. just attention, paying close attention to your life experience, being honest with yourself. We're, for the most part, not in that place yet. We're we're not honest with other people. We're not honest with ourselves, and we can't admit that. Hey, wait a minute, we made a mistake. Well, you can't learn from anything. You can't learn until you get to the point where you realize you've made a mistake. And if you're so afraid of, realizing that you've made a mistake, then there you are. You're stuck. You never grow. You never change. You're right all the time. Even when everybody around you knows you're not right, and they're probably not right either. You know, but there it is. There's no growth without an acknowledgement, without a recognition that, hey, wait a minute, I blew that. I don't want to do that again. I see the consequences of it. But and until you admit you made a mistake, you have no chance of forgiving yourself, right? And without forgiveness, then that emotional baggage just builds up and builds up and builds up, and you have no way of actually freeing it. And then it gets to a point where it becomes so bad, then you have a mental break. You end up, freaking out and attacking people who are not your enemy. You know, you see that happening. These poor people who feel they're in a completely trapped situation, resorting to any means for relief. It's insanity. You're not going to kill your way to freedom. You can't. War is not the path to peace. I don't care how many times we've tried it. All we succeed in doing is killing off whole groups of people that are lost. Good thing nothing's ever lost here, because man, I'll tell you what, human experience is about as cheap and disposable as anything else. We just throw it away. And what we do is we intellectually justify it by, oh, we're afraid of them, or he's a threat, and we just have to bag him. So we kill him. Oh, heaven forbid, we listen to him enough to where we change our mind. Maybe, oh my gosh, maybe we admit that we're actually wrong. Even even saying I don't know is a sign of weakness, right? I don't know. Oh my gosh, if I tell people I don't know, then my underlings might take my job. So I can't tell them I don't know. So what I'll do is I'll pretend, or I'll lie, or I'll make something up, right? Heaven forbid that they figure out that I don't know what I'm doing here. They'll lose confidence and try to take my job. So they don't even say the words I don't know. Take it from me, folks. I say that all the time. And the neat thing about saying I don't know is that's the first step of actually knowing. Until you admit you don't know, you lack you lack the means by which you can know, because hey, you don't start looking until until you admit you don't know. It doesn't take very long after you say I don't know to actually do know. A teacher appears or information comes to you. Yeah. Yeah, you don't stay in that state of I don't know for very long after you admit that you don't know. Yeah, somebody comes along real quick. Something comes along and changes your ignorance very quickly to where it's now knowledge and not ignorance. And it happens very quickly. But, we have to be right, and we have to be knowledgeable, even though we're not. So, you know, and because we're afraid. What if, what if somebody thinks that I don't know anything? What if somebody thinks that I'm insane? What if I'm wrong? That's terrible. That's terrible to manipulate yourself that way. But I mean, hey, it does a good thing. It causes suffering. You know, people resort to all kinds of weird fanatical, you know, behaviors because they're afraid. They're afraid of what other people would think. Oh, you lost your job. You can't make your house payment. But rather than telling people, hey, look, man, I just lost my job, man, you know, and then, you know, all of a sudden, you know, thinking that, oh, wait a minute, these people aren't going to like me anymore because, you know, I'm unemployed or something. So the decision is, I'm going to have to resort to, you know, extremes. So they go out and rob people to conceal the fact that, you know, hey, they lost their job because, you know, somebody might, you know, think that they're less than than something, or they create all kinds of problems with the people around them because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. At work, yeah, I see companies collapsing because their executives are too afraid to admit that they're totally out of their element. You know, that's the state that American businesses are in. I mean, this is not incompetence anymore. This becomes then a willful criminal act, a willful fraud and misrepresentation, and that just creates suffering. You know, you've got people that lie on their resumes. They cheat in school, right? and and not only that, but you know, we meet people, you know, for the first time. The first thing we do is we lie, we misrepresent, you know, what we are. And then, you know, a year of maintaining that lie, you end up getting married, you know, and wow, then it's found out that, wait a minute, you are not the, you're not the nice guy, and you don't have this and you don't have that. You know, then you're stuck with a liar. And worse, you're stuck with somebody that believes lies and accepts it as truth. You know, deception doesn't create happiness in your experience. And you don't have to believe me. Try it. Just start breaking promises and see if your experience improves. It's a real easy test. It's not hard to, it's not hard to test. We're told that, you know, people who lie are more intelligent. Well, they might be more intelligent. They're certainly not wise. But we want to be more and more intelligent. But wisdom? Well, what's that? We don't even want to be wise. Wisdom comes through making mistakes, accepting those mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and deciding not to make those mistakes again. If we can't admit that we're making a mistake, oh, I don't care how intelligent you are, you're certainly not wise. It's like this. The really intelligent man is standing in the middle of the street. He sees the bus coming towards him. He can estimate very accurately the speed of the bus coming toward him. His knowledge of physics and his experience knows that when the bus hits a human body, that the human body loses. He can understand very clearly the amount of time it would take for him to step out of the street and avoid the bus. That's intelligence. Wisdom, is the man that sees the bus screaming towards him, doesn't care how fast it's going, but just simply decides to step out onto the curb and get out of the way. That's wisdom. Intelligence is no immunity to confusion. In fact, the more intelligent you are, the better chance that you're confused. Because logically, you can justify any kind of atrocious behavior. You can set up all kinds of hypotheticals to justify any kind of behavior. Intelligence really is no measure of happiness. And intelligence really can't get you happiness. It'll get you stuff. And if you think that stuff is actually going to make you happy, actually it does the opposite. The more stuff you have, the more things you carry around. The more people you are afraid of because they might take your stuff away from you. You know, I'm not advocating abandoning all your possessions. However, it can make you happy. If you can get to a place where you're really not worried about losing it, even better, because then you can keep it and you're not worried about losing it. And the nice thing about it too is, wow, if you're not so attached to it, you might give it to somebody else, and they might find a better use for it. I mean, we got stuff in our closets that we don't use. We just have it because it's our stuff. But there are other people out there who could probably make use of it, to where it's not just sitting in your closet decomposing. I mean, it could be a tool, it could be clothes, shoes. You know, these this concept of possession, the concept of ownership of something that, quite frankly, is school property. All it does is create self-imposed obligations on you, more things to worry about, create more of a threat to your existence. You don't look at people as your friends. You look at other people as somebody that can take your stuff away from you, somebody to be afraid of. Yeah, I got people that say, well, you just wait until these people, these roving mobs with guns come and try to get your stuff. I said, well, shoot, if they need it more than I do, why wouldn't I give it to them? If they truly needed it, I mean, it's no big deal. I got a hungry man coming to my house. It's going to kill me. I don't know why. As soon as I see him there, I'm going to tell him, hey, man, you hungry? I'll feed you. Wow, now I have a friend who has a gun. If you live in a world of enemies, there's no happiness. If you live in a world of friends, wow, your whole life is an enjoyable celebration. I look at everybody on this planet as my friend. Everyone. I don't look at what they do as something that can hurt me. If it's my time to go, then it's my time to go. If I need to suffer, then I need to suffer. They're reflections of me. They're me. They're showing me something that's really important. They're showing me an image of me. And I take that very seriously, and I pay attention. And when I listen, I really listen. People notice, too. It strikes people odd sometimes that I actually listen to what they say. We don't do that anymore because we look at these other people as separate from us, when really it's just a reflection of us. Something to hate, not something to love. Something to be afraid of, not something to cherish. Something to suspect. Suffering is very useful because eventually you'll have enough. But I've noticed that apparently we're a stubborn bunch. And that's going to take quite a bit of suffering and pain to cause us to rethink our experience. And it's coming. You know, I used to think, well, hey, I'd spare you that suffering, but man, I know how valuable suffering was in my experience. And I wouldn't deny that suffering to anybody. Eventually, ego will burn itself out. If you exist in a continual state of fear, eventually you have no capacity to be afraid anymore because you're just out of energy. It's coming. It's coming. And wow, the nice thing is eventually the people are they're gonna figure it out. All you have to be is happy once, and you'll never go back. All you have to get to is a place where you're not afraid, and you'll never go back. Once you know love, and I mean real love, hate is no longer useful to you. Vengeance is no longer useful to you. We have these wonderful things: love, compassion, true compassion. There's a false compassion. Most compassion is based on vanity. Oh, I feel good because I'm helping this poor man or this poor woman. See how wonderful I am. Really? You know, most of the compassion that's out there, all it does is perpetuate people's suffering. You have a bum on the, or let's say homeless. You know, we don't say bums anymore. Got a homeless guy on the street, right? He's there begging for money because he's got a alcohol addiction. And we come by and we pity him. So we give him $1. So then he goes and we walk out of there thinking, oh, we've done a good thing. And he goes and buys another bottle and he just gets hooked. Well, it's not really solving the problem. The bum drinks because he's unhappy. He's unhappy because he drinks. He's poor because he drinks. And he drinks because he's poor. It's a box. It's a cage. And had we been paying close enough attention a long time ago, we would have no need for homeless, starving, poor people. We wouldn't need that kind of suffering because we would have made changes a long time ago. But we want to look away. We don't want to recognize these things in our environment because we're afraid, oh, maybe I made a mistake. But whether you accept it or not, there are consequences. You're not going to like them, but you have to go through it. That way you don't forget the lesson. So, hopefully, I didn't waste your time rambling. Okay, folks. I hope your particular political candidate does everything to you he needs to do, or she. And you know, I wow, maybe they'll actually do something, huh? Think so? Maybe. I know one thing: they'll cause suffering. Whether you accept that, as their purpose is another thing, and whether you accept the fact that you need them to cause suffering for you to wake up, that's a totally different question. So enjoy your suffering and your pain, and enjoy your delusional euphoria, because we have a lot of that now. And um, you know, maybe if you work really hard, you'll achieve the American dream. Even better, maybe you'll wake up, realize that you'd been sleeping. All right, folks. I'm Roage, here in the woodshop. You have a good day.